The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heartthrob in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too evil and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Perfect podcast. Coming to you July 30th, 2024. It is, at least on my end, it's closing in on the very end of summer. And I have to admit, I'm a little depressed by that. You guys know I've said for years, I don't really care for summertime. The weather is terrible here, especially in South Florida. It's humid and it's fucking hot. It's typically very, people call winter, and I get like we live up north, up say Connecticut or New York, and you snowed in all the time. It could be depressing and whatnot because of the weather there being cold and you just have to be in the house all the time. But that's how I feel about summers here in Florida. It's always hot, humid, can't breathe, and you only want to go outside. But I have to admit, summer technically ends here. Well, here, but it technically ends in September, really. But school for my kids start in a few weeks. We're actually literally 2 weeks and 1 day from the start of the new school semester for my kids, who are both 11 and 7, both going to 6th grade and 2nd grade respectively. But I have to confess, this is probably one of the most productive summers I think I've had since I've been a parent. And I'm kind of depressed by it. We've done a lot of activities throughout the summer. We've done Disney World. We've done some other stuff. We've gone to, water parks. We've gone to other places that to keep. Hold on, my son's here. Here we go. Thank you, buddy. You good? Awesome. We've gone to other places. We've done so many activities. We've had my nieces here all summer, almost every day to keep them company. We've done a lot of stuff. Yesterday I took a day off from work. Yesterday I took a mental health day. Because we don't have a lot of family days. I tell you guys, my schedule, when it pertains to my wife and I and our schedules for work, we don't necessarily have a day off together. We don't have any family day. We have nights together, and we have like certain mornings together, and we utilize the time because of our schedules. We maximize it because of to not rely on babysitters and all that. But on the flip side, we don't have any days off together. So if we decide to do a day away, where it's go to Disney or go to just do whatever, it requires one of us taking a day off of work, depending on the day we choose. So yesterday I decided to just take a mental health day, just take a family day, because we had planned on going to one of the water parks here locally, and with a couple of friends of ours. We had a phenomenal time. We went there for about 4 or 5 hours. I had a phenomenal time. Had a lazy river there, slides, you name it. It was just a great time. I'm obviously worn out from it. My body's aching because I was walking over the parks and going to slides, and I'm old. I'm getting old for this stuff, but I still enjoy it. And this is what we have to do to maximize things here. And we've done a lot of those things over the summer. We've gone to the pool a lot this summer. We've done so many activities. My kids are active kids, so they keep me active, which is a great thing, honestly. But I have to admit, I'm kind of depressed. Schools, that summer's ending for them, because get back to the grind. And typically every year, I remember last year saying, "Thank God summer's over," so I can get back to my me time. And when they're at school and I have my days off, I can do the things I want to do. And I don't know, I feel a little different this year. I don't know, I feel a little different. Locking into father, locking into do the things we enjoy and spend time with my kids. This stuff's not forever. They're gonna get older and older, and next they're gonna be right now they're 11-7, and in a couple of years, they're going to be what 16 and 12, and then next they're going to be too cool for school and not want to hang out with you at all. So you try taking these, you try to evaluate and taking these times you have with the kids, and with me anyway, I'm trying to take in as much time with my kids as possible. That's why I don't mind, if I'm working and I have a chance to leave early or have a chance to take a day off here and there, that I wouldn't get back anyway. I'm going to do it because this is time is. I think time is the one currency you can't replace. Money you can replace always. I'm just day at work. Okay, cool. Well, I'll work make up somewhere else. But time you can't replace. And that's where my mind's at these days. So I'm a little sad now that summer is coming to an end. I'm a little sad. The only thing I got to work on, especially too, is for me, when it comes to schedule, when it comes to taking them to school, I take them to school in the morning every morning. And I'm going to a new school next year, but it's the same distance from where their old school is at. So it's not going to really affect the schedule necessarily. But I've gotten so used now in the last 8 weeks to sleeping in. Now, for me, sleeping in is 8 o'clock in the morning. So I work at 9 in the morning. So I'll probably sleep until 8, 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning. School, however, starts when I'm at 8. So during the school year, I'm up at 6, 7 in the morning, sometimes 6:30, 6:45. If I'm up going to work out before I go start my day. But I've gotten so used now in the last 8 weeks to sleeping in a little bit. That I'm starting to people think, oh, it's just an hour, no big deal. You can adjust an hour, and yeah, you have a point there, but no. And when you get my age, man, 44 years old, 1 hour is a massive deal. If you get an extra hour of sleep, that's a big deal. So I'm trying to get to the point now where I'm starting to train my body again to go back an hour back, where I'm getting up a little bit earlier than 8 o'clock because I gotta be up at 7 in the morning, get them awake, get them breakfast, pack lunches, the whole nine, and take them to school, and then I go to work after that. So starting to get to the point now, I'm starting to try to little by little get up a little bit early every other day. Now today I say that, and this morning I slept into after 8 o'clock. But I was exhausted yesterday. Yesterday, I said at the water park was, oh my god, it was a tiring day today. Phenomenal time, but it truly came crashing down when I was able to relax and and take in the rest of the day. But had a great time. So yeah, it's getting a little sad now. Summer's coming to end for the kids, but same time, life goes on, and school starts, and it's time to get back in the books and all that, and make the adjustments necessary. So. All right. Today's episode of Core is called the Quarterback Cash Room, because if you've seen the last couple of days, well, it was last week, because that's last Friday, we gotten some more quarterbacks making some big money. 2 quarterbacks that were on the fence when it came to whether or not they're worth the kind of money, whether or not teams are ready to invest them. 2 quarterbacks by the name of Jordan Love, the Packers quarterback, and then of course Tua Tagovailoa, Dolphins quarterback, both cash in on massive deals. Jordan Love becomes the highest paid quarterback in player in NFL history, to the tune of 4 years, $220 million. Tua Tagovailoa, 4 years, $212.5. Both guys have different risks for different reasons. In Jordan Love's case, it's more so a sample size thing. Jordan Love's first year as a starter last season, he started the year pretty slow, turned on late. Packers turned on late, make the playoffs, win a playoff game, and were in position to actually win a second playoff game against the eventual NFC champions, San Francisco 49ers. So there was always obviously that, okay, do you pay him now, or do you take a little risk? In that, if you don't pay him now, he has a great year this season, for example, and then now his value now goes through the roof now. I believe he might have been either a free agent or close to a situation where he can opt out of his contract. I'm not sure exactly, but bottom line is Packers saw the urgency here to lock him up. They believe in this. This is their future. To their credit, they've done a good job in the last 30 years now of having quarterbacks. The one guy had him for 15 odd years, and that's been their guy. Brett Favre from 1992 to 2007. Aaron Rodgers from 2008 rather, to 2022. So they have a good track record of identifying their quarterback and locking them up and keeping them and making them their guy for a decade plus. Jordan Love, of course, like I said, last year he tailed 2 different quarterbacks. Like, he was a little bit, a little bit rough on the edges early on in the year, and then by the end of the year, he turned it on. So the risk here for them is more so the investment, but he's also young. So if you believe that what he did in the last year is going to translate to his career going forward, then it's a great move now to lock him up now he can before that, $60 million turns into $70 million next year. Because look, the cap keeps going up and up and up, and which means that the balloon of the annual salaries for quarterbacks are going to continue going up and up and up. And that was a situation where the Dolphins had to face also too with Tua Tagovailoa. In his case, it's a little different because it's more of an injury situation. It's more of a health situation. This guy does not stay healthy. Now, I say that, even though last year he played all 17 games. So kudos to him. He did his job. Because that was a big thing coming in the year. Can Tua stay healthy? If Tua stays healthy, that system works when all parts are together, parts being Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and so on and so on and so on. It works. But you also saw parts where if Tyreek Hill missed time, the offense sort of sputtered a little bit. So there's still that, okay, well, good. Tua stays healthy. Check, off the box. Now, is Tua a guy that, say we lose receivers, is he still good enough to make other guys better? That's still a question. Because we saw last year where if Tyreek Hill missed time or Jalen Waddle missed time, Tua was not as effective as a quarterback. And granted, I understand that you have your best players, you things can be a little bit dicey for quarterbacks, but there are quarterbacks that win in spite of that. One reason why we revere Patrick Mahomes, for example, is the fact that Pat Mahomes has now won back-to-back Super Bowls, even though he lost Tyreek Hill 2 years prior, or a year prior to win those back-to-back Super Bowls. So he's found ways to win with other guys. It hasn't been pretty, but he's gotten the job done. So in retrospect, can you have the Dolphins identify Tua as a guy that can still elevate when times are rough? And that's what separates the good from the absolute great and elite. We talk about all the time on this, through all these media shows and this podcast about eliteness, who's elite. There are really only a few elite guys in this league. Like, I could definitely count on one hand. Top 10 doesn't mean you're an elite quarterback. It means you're above average. But to be special like a Patrick Mahomes, special like Josh Allen, special like, Joe Burrow, there's going to be extra something. And we're going to see that, especially with this year with Josh Allen when he loses Stephon Diggs. Because I believe that situation is going to be, even though Stephon Diggs is a phenomenal talent, top 10 receiver in the league, I firmly believe that situation is going to be addition by subtraction. Because Stephon Diggs, for example, to me was a distraction in terms of him wanting the ball all the time and Josh Allen having to feed him the ball all the time, and in some ways disrupted their offense. That being said, can Tua be that guy where he can elevate even without a Tyreek Hill for a game or two, or Jalen Waddle a game or two? Well, the payment such. And I think they're doing the same thing also. I don't know the structure of these deals because I'm wondering if it's structured the same way the Giants structured Daniel Jones, where people saying, "Oh, Daniel Jones got paid too much money," and I agree with you on that. But at the same time, they made a calculation that if he's going to ascend going forward, get him at a lower number. Whereas let's say Daniel Jones last year ended up having a great year last year. Say they franchise Daniel Jones, the first year last year, and then he has a great year. Now his $40 million turns $50 million, even $60 million maybe. So they identified, but no, of course, that was a wrong choice because he is not that good, obviously. But why I defended the deal was the fact that the deal was really only a 2-year deal, not really a 4-year deal. They can opt out of this. They can get out of this deal after his year 2. So after this season, if Daniel Jones is not good, and the Giants identify that he's not their future, then they can get out of that contract without any issue. I'm curious if I doubt it that it's similar to that. And I think the amount of years too also on these deals with Love and Tua, based on their age, they can cash in again in 3 or 4 years. So these short-term deals are cool because you stay healthy and you stay playing well, you can go to the bag one more time. Also, this deal also is actually good news for one other quarterback, one high-profile quarterback, Dak Prescott. Let me tell you why. This is his last year on the contract with the Dallas Cowboys. He clearly obviously wants money. He wants to get paid again. play like a top guy. Dallas is in the pickle now because Dallas would like to lock him up for the future, but the problem is the price tag, and then is he worth it? And then what works against Dak on that angle is that he's also 31 years old. Now that's not really old, but it's not as young as these. It's a 6-year gap between Tua Tagovailoa and Joe Love, both guys in the mid-20s. However, Dak still has all the leverage. So long as Dak stays healthy, so long as the Dallas Cowboys continue to be relevant and be a playoff team. Like, we understand the Cowboys, the problem is they can't win the playoffs. Made no mistake about it. Whether you love or hate the Cowboys, and I damn sure hate the Cowboys. I'm a Giants fan. Come on now. The fact of the matter is this, is that Dak Prescott, this team is really, really good with Dak Prescott at quarterback. The problem is it's a ceiling. Basically, this team is a guaranteed playoff team with this guy under center. Okay? But it can't get over the hump. The second round playoffs is their ceiling. So do the Cowboys make a calculation that, you know what, this team is not good enough with him as quarterback? We need to take a chance. Maybe we need to help the guys behind. Maybe you go to Cooper Rush. Maybe you go to a Trey Lance. That's still a risk though, because and yeah, granted, you have the ancillary parts around right now, CeeDee Lamb and all these other guys, all these great talented guys around them. But are they going to be able to play on level of Dak Prescott? And if they don't lock up Dak Prescott, here's the reality of the situation. Dak Prescott next year, assuming he maintains the same level of play he did last season into this season, and the Cowboys are a playoff team still at the very least, he will make his money. The question is going to be whether it will be in Dallas or elsewhere. Because now the market will be opened up for Dak Prescott anywhere. Now, I'm sure Dak wants to stay in Dallas. He still wants to stay in Dallas, obviously. But at the same time, you ain't paying the guy, you're going to find some money elsewhere. And some of the things that Jerry Jones has been saying in the press as of late, I won't say suspect, but you get the vibe that there isn't full confidence. There isn't full confidence in Dak. So we shall see. It's going to be an interesting situation going forward with Dak. Because the other issue too the Dallas is facing is that the reports from last week were that they are currently negotiating with CeeDee Lamb to get him his new deal, receiver CeeDee Lamb. So typically, when you have that happening, when the receivers can get the money first, it spells weird optics, because normally you want to lock up the quarterback first and then the pieces around him. But the fact that you're hearing reports of CeeDee Lamb deals being worked on right now currently, or a possible deal before the season starts, before Dak Prescott, seems to suggest that, at least from the optics, that the Cowboys are unsure if Dak Prescott is their future. At least at the price tag that he would probably command on the market for either this year or next year. So it's something that Jerry Jones and company are, they got to figure that out. I still think overall they'll come to agreement. I think Jerry Jones will find a way to make that work. It's not that they have the money to do it, but again, this is a salary cap league. It's a hard cap league. You can only pay so many guys. And if Dak Prescott is the guy, or they believe he's the guy to take him over the top, that means the ancillary pieces may have to suffer in the future. But we'll see. You're still got to pay CeeDee Lamb. Still got to pay Micah Parsons. You still got to pay Diggs the corner at some point. These are things that make Dak, that prop Dak up. And those pieces aren't there. How good is Dak? And that's the question. And and again, that's what separates the Mahomes from everyone else. That's what separates the Brady's from everyone else. Now, in Brady's case, Brady did take pay cuts and all that, but still, that's what separates those guys being special versus, a top 10 quarterback, but not someone that's like as good as Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, those guys, or Josh Allen. So we'll see how it goes. Everything goes before between now and the start of the season. Obviously, we're in training camp now. If I'm not mistaken, the first preseason game is actually this Thursday. Ooh. I mean, I'm really pumped for football this year. I'm really pumped for it. I really am. Typically, I don't get too like, I don't get too like overexcited this early, because I'm still right now, especially now with me, the Mets, the Mets are doing very well. It's election season right now, especially too. So I'm locked in the election coverage right now. You also have a lot of things. I like I said with this podcast, I always tend to slow down around this time when it comes to content in terms of like, in general, because I like to like lay back, talk about my family, the whole nine. But I'm getting really excited for football now, and you're going to see the content in on this podcast in the next couple of weeks. We'll be filling up some really good content with football content in the next couple of weeks. Truly excited about it. Truly excited. Again, you can check all the content I do, especially with this is the audio side, of course, but on video on YouTube at youtube.com/Earnest Christian. Check out all the clips we do here in the podcast. We got a lot of stuff for you guys. And I can't wait for the fall too. So definitely gonna be doing some really cool stuff in the months to come. Working on some new projects and all this kind of stuff. So look out for all that. Sticking to football too, also as we're getting closer and closer to the start of preseason, I want to go ahead and reveal my Super Bowl bubble. Which teams which teams in the league entering this season do I believe are legitimate right now, as we sit here right now, July 30th, 2024? Which teams do I believe are legitimate Super Bowl contenders? Now, how do I identify a team as a Super Bowl contender? Well, to me, it's very simple. If I see X team or Y team, whatever you call it, if I see this team, at the very least, playing in their conference's championship game, I believe they're a Super Bowl contender. If I imagine this team playing in the AFC title game or the NFC title game, for example, that's who I identify as a contender. And I identified 9 teams in the league that are, in my opinion, Super Bowl contenders. Okay, I have 4 AFC teams, and I have 5 NFC teams on my list of contenders. The AFC teams are pretty easy. The Chiefs, obviously, Super Bowl champions. Again, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's easy. The Ravens, obviously, Lamar Jackson and company. I mean, although I gotta tell you, I'm a little worried now. They lost a gold opportunity to get into the Super Bowl last year, and they beat themselves last year in that title game to Kansas City. But I do think we have Lamar Jackson healthy, of course. There's always a health risk at Lamar Jackson, and the rest of that team. But Ravens are that damn good. The Bengals, now with Joe Burrow back in the fold and healthy again, still like the roster. Still got that core receiver group, of Chase and Higgins. Although Higgins is I think Higgins is still holding out. And then Buffalo. People are going to say, well, why Buffalo? Because I do think, once again, as I said earlier, the removal of Stephon Diggs, while phenomenal talent, and no one's knocking that, might be an addition by subtraction situation that Josh Allen, I think, can flourish without him. I think Josh Allen could still flourish without him at receiver, and he'll find ways to get the job done. And I think Buffalo can still find a ways in the AFC game. They're a tough team. Last year, they had the toughest schedule in the league, and they still found a way to get into the close to the AFC title game. They got to the AFC second round of the playoffs, but that game against KC was back to back and forth. They got either way. So, if Buffalo finds a way in the AFC game, will not surprise me whatsoever. Now, on the NFC side, 5 teams I have here. The Eagles, obviously, the one. Look, last year was obviously a disappointing ending to the season. Jalen Hurts not being healthy, but they added Saquon Barkley. We'll see if the defense can get back to where they were 2 years ago. But even with that, their roster is just literate talent, and they have the best front office in football. They'll find ways to stay relevant. And I think hopefully for their sake anyway, the situation with AJ Brown, and now they extended him this summer or this offseason rather, because he was a little bit disgruntled toward the end of the year. Hopefully that's all cleared up for them for their sake. They locked in their core, for the future. The Niners, of course, too, arguably best roster in all of football. Can Brock Purdy continue to do the things he's been doing? As a guy, we call him Mr. Irrelevant, of course. Can he continue doing the things he's been doing? That's a question. Obviously, we have to see, but the roster is just literal talent, up and down. At the very least, any title game is at least I expected for them in a weak conference too. Also, Detroit Lions. Now, I'm a little skeptical with the Lions a little bit too, also because again, It's Detroit Lions. Like we saw that story last year. Now they're gonna become the hunted. Now they won the division last year. They were literally a quarter away from winning the NFC as a whole. Can they sustain that? Jared Goff got his money, of course. Can Jared Goff continue to play the way he's been playing the last couple of years in Detroit? Odds are they probably will. But the next team here on my list, the fourth team in the NFC team on my list, the Packers are on the heels now, and with Jordan Love locking up his contract now, locking up his new deal. Green Bay is a team that seems to be ascending right now, also too. They should be healthy. So, and I think that race, I stated on the last pod I did on Soul Pod last week, that race between Green Bay and Detroit for the NFC North title, because I don't think Minnesota's a chance, neither Chicago a chance to win the division. Two team race here between Green Bay and Detroit. It's gonna be easily the best race of the league this year, and that could weigh a lot on who at the very least gets to the title game in the conference. The last team here on my list, I'm going to say it because of the talent they have, but this is like an all-in year for them at this point. The Cowboys. And again, weak conference. They are very talented. They're extremely talented. And because of that, their ceiling is pretty high. The floor is not low because the roster intact, healthy, is a playoff team. They are guaranteed to win, in my opinion, between 10 and 12 games every year. Maybe 13 if they get lucky. Okay? They are a 10 to 12 win team, which in the NFC guarantees a playoff spot. So take away all the stuff, all the noise about the Cowboys and America's team and this and that. They are a very good football team. Their issues, they can't win in the postseason. But, sometimes all it takes is one break or two. It took away last year's loss to Green Bay. They were a drive away from being San Francisco to go to the title game, and same thing the year before that. So it's not far-fetched to say the Cowboys play an NFC title game for the first time since 1995, which I can't believe it's been that long. Honestly, kind of pathetic for a team like of the stature of the Cowboys. Actually, to be honest with you, I can't believe it's been that long, but it's not far-fetched to say the Cowboys could play an NFC title game if they play cards right. But it does feel like, though, with everything around Dak and his contract situation, Mike McCarthy, could he be on the go going forward? Hot seat, probably the hottest seat in the league this year. It's not far-fetched to think that the Cowboys could make it to the title game this year. So I will still put them as a contender because if they're there, I'm not shocked. But all that talent they have there, I'm not shocked at all. So those are my 9 teams I have that are currently in my Super Bowl bubble. The Chiefs, Ravens, Bengals, Bills, Eagles, Niners, Packers, Lions, and Cowboys are my 9 teams I have currently on my Super Bowl bubble for the 2024 NFL season. All right, I want to switch things up to the world of politics. And I got to tell you, what a difference 9 days makes. What a difference 9 days makes. 9 days ago, I said, and everything before then, I told you Joe Biden was toast. That Donald Trump was going to win the election. Probably not a landslide, because we're so divided as a country anyway, that a landslide is impossible right now with the way things are right now, where we are partisan-wise at each side. But Donald Trump's going to win, at the very least, close to numbers he won in 2016 with 306 electoral votes, maybe win more than that. Joe Biden was bringing down his party, and whatnot, and we were on a way to a Donald Trump victory and him being elected as president, whatnot. Well, things have changed in the last 9 days, especially if you believe the polling. Between the fundraising we saw with Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris now inserted as the head of the ticket now, as opposed to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is saying he would not run for re-election. Kamala Harris inserted as the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party for President of the United States. You've seen the fundraising go through the roof, the record-setting fundraising we've seen in the last 9 days. And now the polling is starting to come in now. And look, the polling is coming in, and it looks like everything's been reset now. National polls are showing Donald Trump against Joe Biden before his exit, that Donald Trump was leading by 3 or 4 points nationally and leading specific battleground states that matter, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and was starting to get numbers that was starting to trend outside the margin of error. Now, with Kamala Harris, the new polling has shown that while Donald Trump does still lead nationally, that lead has slipped. It's back to the margin of error. I think they showed Trump up by 2 points now nationally. And in certain specific states, Kamala Harris has now virtually tied Donald Trump in some of those states that he was behind on, that Biden was behind on for 4 points or around there. Some are tied, and some states even with Kamala Harris taking a slight lead. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. As someone that loves to talk about polling all the time, and everybody knows that I love to talk about polls because look, I'm not married to polls. I look at polling as information. It's not be all end all. At the end of the day, people still got to go vote. Okay, you still got to go out and put make a decision in the ballot box. So I'm not that naive to say, oh, the polls are going to be the be all end all. They're not the be all end all, and in fact, you can't just rely on those things. But here's what's happened with this election in the last 9 days. We've gone from a situation where the Democratic Party, who was, if you're voting for Joe Biden, it's not because you were enthusiastic about Joe Biden. It's because you didn't like the other guy on the other side of the aisle, in Donald Trump. Now you have a situation now where, and look, I'm going to sit here and say it's Obama-esque, but there's a little bit of that vibe now in terms of people being excited about who they're going to the polls for now. You're seeing Zoom calls now, 40,000 women on a Zoom call, 50,000 men on a Zoom call for Harris. So what you have now is a Democratic Party now that's actually enthusiastic, almost in the same way the MAGA folks are also enthusiastic of Donald Trump now. And we have not seen that since 2008 and 2012 with Barack Obama. So that is why, if the polling is to be believed, is where it is. Now, there's still a lot of things that has to happen going forward before I believe that Kamala Harris has gone from not just being even with Donald Trump to now probably the possible favorite to win the election. Number one, she needs to debate Donald Trump. She needs to get on the debate stage with Donald Trump. The word is now that Trump is not going to debate with her until she is officially the nominee for president, which we won't know until the Democratic convention, which is going to be in, I think it's August 22nd through 25th, I believe, or what is that third weekend in August. When she should be, inserted as the official nominee for president of the Democratic Party. By then, we'll also know who her VP running mate is. But of course, she has a couple options there. I'll get to that in a second. But she's going to debate stage Donald Trump because, to me, we are still in a bit of a honeymoon period now when it comes to Kamala Harris, and I get all that. There's still a lot more to go. But this election right now, it feels like it's reset. And this is why I kept saying for weeks, I've been saying for a year and a half now, that Joe Biden, whether or not you agree or disagree with how good a job he's doing in this country, and he's done some good things, obviously, in infrastructure and all that stuff. There's things also to knock him on as well, too. But there's bad, weird optics with Joe Biden. What we keep hearing across the board about Joe Biden from Republicans, independents, and even Democrats, even ones that like him. Oh, we love Joe Biden. He's just old. And the thing is, we went from the Joe Biden's old situation now to when we saw the debate in June. He not only looked old, he looked like he was barely functionable anymore. And that's weird optics. And the polling went the other way as a result of that. And you have to use that information out there based on, you have to use that information also to do what's out there. Because the same information that you may not be on polling, well, political parties use that polling as well, too, to make decisions on. And look, I have my own personal disagreements with how Democrats did this in general. I'm a firm believer in a primary. I'm a firm believer in letting the people speak. But that's not my party. I'm a Democrat first. I'm a Republican, so I can't speak on those things. I'm not a member of those parties, so I can't speak on that. I have an opinion on that, but I can't speak on what they should and shouldn't do it because I'm not a member of that party. But this is their own party rules. If they allow this is what they do. And look, Joe Biden did get pushed out. Joe Biden, even the day before he decided to leave the race, leave the race. Said that he was going to run. He was going to continue running and that. So someone obviously got in his ear. But the reality is that the Democrats did, in terms of political gaming, did the right thing here. But Kamala needs to debate Trump, and I think it will happen still. There's still a tentative debate on ABC, I think, in September, planned, but there's nothing formal with that as yet. In terms of like vice presidential nominees, I'll tell you what, I've been doing some research on things. The guy I like a lot is Tim Walz in Minnesota. That dude is doing some great things in Minnesota. He's doing the work of the people in that state. He's progressive in things that I believe in. Getting free school lunches in the state. He's getting a lot of good things going on there. There's a lot of listings. I had a notes of stuff I forgot to bring it here, but just some really good stuff there in the state of Minnesota. As governor, very popular governor. Obviously, Josh Shapiro would be a ideal pick because Josh Shapiro also is the governor of Pennsylvania, a state that Democrats, well, both guys need it, but Democrats especially need to win this election. That's 20 electoral votes right there in that state. That is the coup de grace of this entire election. You still got Andy Beshear in Kentucky, in a red state, two-term Democratic governor in a state, in a very red state, doing a very good job and very high approval ratings too, also especially. So it is possible for a Democratic governor to run a red state and whatnot. Those are the three guys that, in my opinion, are the favorites. I like Tim Walz personally, based on the work he's been doing. And like I said, I actually watched an interview with him on, I think it was at CNN on whatever station he was on this weekend. I saw an interview with him recently, and he just looked like a common sense guy who gets the job done. All about the work, all about policy, and again, that's where I'm at. Policy, you win me over in policy, in a day. And a lot of conversations to my house about that too. Also, like I got a lot of flack from people close to me recently. Little inside baseball here. With the show, my wife, she listened to the interview with what I did with my friend Tori Spears. We had him on the podcast last week. Conservative commentator and good friend of mine. He's been on the show a couple times now. He's been a phenomenal guest on the show. He's definitely a red-leaning guy, not a Trump guy, but a conservative Republican. And I got a lot of flack from her and a couple of my friends because I did not feel I was challenging enough in my questioning with him. I didn't challenge him. I was debating with him. And I told her, like, the thing is, first off, it's really an interview. We're having a conversation, interview. I know a couple of things on there that they thought I was strong enough on the issue. Like, for example, on state rights. And I remember saying, and maybe she was right on one part, like when she's talking about state rights, because he brought up state rights in terms of the abortion issue. And I know I've said this to him in the past on the podcast about that, where I see the value of state rights because for a lot of, but to me, it's also itemized. It depends on the things that you are, what issues should be federal, what should be states. I've told him in the past, though, that women's rights should be a federal issue. That should not be a state rights issue. That's what I disagree with Republicans on. Okay. I see the value in state rights as a whole, but it depends on the issue you're talking about here. In the case of women's rights, though, that should be a federal issue. And that's where I'm at on that. But the people close to me, my wife, of course, included in that, thought I should have been a lot more aggressive with my talking points on that. And maybe she's right. Maybe she's right on that. But it wasn't a debate. It was a conversation we were having. And the reason why I didn't come stronger on that with her too, also especially because we already discussed those positions on previous shows before, so there's no way to double down on that again. At least that's how I felt at the time, you know. But it's there. Obviously the conversation in this house, my household's been, my wife, who's not necessarily a big political person, but she does get into it with me. A little more inside baseball with us. Like when we first started dating in 2006, I was a Republican actually. You guys know that. And she's always been a liberal. She's always been a very left leaning person, staunch, does not care. She's not even divisive on that. We know where she stands on that. I was a right leaning, a center right ish guy when we first met. But at the time when we first started dating, I had already started to get a little very much tired of the Republican Party at that point. That was during the Iraq War, Afghanistan. Then the economy goes to shit. I eventually left the party in 2008, and we both became MPAs. We became MPA at that point, non-party affiliate, and we both been MPAs since we've been together. She was MPA before me. I became MPA pretty much in 2008. And so we pretty much voted the same. Her and I voted pretty much the same way every time since we've been together, because we, for the most part, we have the same political views. She's more left leaning than I am. Obviously, I'm a center left guy. She's definitely left leaning, But there are issues her and I we do sometimes have a little bit of divide on, and that's fine. It's healthy. But this has been a big conversation in my house recently too, because she's things are ramping up now. We're now in July. Doing it August next week, and we get into that final stretch now to the election. So things are ramping up now, and now with Kamala, being in as the front runner now, not front runner, well, not the front runner, but more so Kamala being the presidential nominee, she's even more excited now. So the conversation in this house has been heightened a lot. Sometimes she'll tease me and she'll say, you're such a Republican, you're a Trump supporter. It's funny. I say one thing to defend someone, to talk about something that's a little more reasonable, and also I'm a Trump supporter. It's crazy. It really is. I saw a comment too on one of those threads where like someone said that I was a GOP lover, and like, really? I mean, I've a Republican in about 16 years, if that, for longer than that. But whatever. But yeah, this election has changed, and this election is going to be very much, I think, even more so in 2020, even more so in 2016, divisive in a lot of ways. This is where we are as a country, man. This is where we are as a country. And we've seen so much happen just in the last month or so. The debates gaffed by Biden, Trump nearly getting murdered, assassinated, and then of course what happened with Biden, leaving the race a week later. It's a lot going on, man. I love it. I as a content creator, I love it, especially. But it's also kind of sad that folks can't seem to get along. Just vote your guy and a person, vote your woman and leave. Call it a day. I was looking at somebody on Twitter earlier. You posted someone on Twitter earlier, on X rather. How can someone vote for this guy? How can someone vote for Kamala? It's easy. It's very easy to vote for someone based on who you like. No one is entitled to vote the way you want them to vote. We may have different ideas on policy, which is very, very easy to vote for someone else for that. Never understood that logic. People think that way, that we should vote my way. No. This is why I never tell people to vote the way I want them to vote. You know what I mean? If people ask my opinion, I'll give my opinion, but I'm not going to sit there and say, no, you vote this way because I don't know your situation. I don't know what you stand for. And I think people should be given the grace to make decisions on their own. We can't preach with a country of freedom, and then we don't allow them to do things as they choose. It goes both ways, man. It does. So, but this race has changed. This race has absolutely changed. The dynamic has changed. We're virtually at a reset now. We got a lot to get to. Yeah, the DNC come a couple of weeks. We'll obviously be covering on this show. We have, the possible debate in September, which I think will be a great debate. I think Kamala against Trump will be a phenomenal debate. And then you have, who knows, another we can have an August surprise. You can have a September surprise, an October surprise. Who knows? We got a lot. We have a lot to get to between now and then. So look out for that. It's gonna be a lot, and of course we'll be covering here on this podcast. We will. All right. A couple things before I get out of here. I just want to review a couple things. I've been watching a lot of content as of late. First things first, I did finally get to watch Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley, the fourth installment of the Beverly Hills Cop franchise after 30. What's the last one came out in 94? So 30 years. This is the last one came out. And you guys know, I told you guys when we announcing the shows, this movie when it was going to come out last year. I told you guys last year that I was very skeptical. I was very, worried because I'm a massive fan of the first two movies. In fact, Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2 are actually in my personal top 5 favorite movies of all time. Okay, I am a massive Eddie Murphy fan. You guys know this. But I hated part 3. Part 3 was terrible. And so it's been almost actually 40 years since you actually had a good Beverly Hills Cop movie. Because the one we had 30 years ago sucked. I gotta tell you, man, I really enjoyed this one. Now look, is it as good? Is it on levels 1 and 2? No, it's not. It's not. Because you just can't. It's a different era. You have to be. You had to be there to understand it. And amazing. But this movie definitely touched on it. It touched on. It leaned in some of the nostalgia of the first two, but it also gave it there's enough room for it to be modernized. And that's the thing else too. I know a lot of movies tend to, especially with these like legacy movies or shows, want to lean on nostalgia to carry it home. And you can do that to some degree, but there's also a risk of being too reliant on nostalgia. And then, you get to, okay, so what's the modern stuff? What's the forward progress of the franchise? And this movie, I think, did a good job of actually balancing the old guard and the new guard. And I loved it. Eddie Murphy was great. He was basically old Eddie again, the cursing, the whole nine, back in his bag. I love the premise is pretty decent also too. Seeing Taggart, 70-something years old, seeing Billy. The only problem I had with the movie was that John Reinhold, Billy Rosewood, was not in it enough. And I didn't understand why he was not in the movie enough. Like, you saw more Taggart in the movie than you saw Billy. And Billy was actually my favorite character after Axel Foley in the show, on the movie. So that was a disappointing part of the whole thing. But the movie itself, I thought was really, really good. It's not a 5-star movie. I give like maybe a 4-star, 4.25 star, maybe 8 out of 10, But it's a movie I'll watch again. It's crazy too. Also with Netflix, so Netflix has all the Beverly Hills Cop movies on their platform. This one, of course, and the first two. They don't even acknowledge the third one. I haven't seen the third one on the on their options. They don't even acknowledge it, which is crazy. But I enjoyed it. It's definitely worth to watch. If you're a fan of the first two, especially, hell, be a fan of the third one. If there's someone actually likes the third one, I haven't met anyone likes the third movie at all, honestly. But if you like it, definitely check it out. Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley on Netflix. Phenomenal movie. Loved it. And just like I said, someone who's been a massive fan of the franchise for a long time, it was good enough for me. Cobra Kai. I told you guys I started watching Cobra Kai with the wife. We are fully caught up now on everything. We're caught up on even on the new stuff. Like, so this new season they're doing, it's 15 episodes. They split in the 3 parts, 5 episodes per. First 5 came out 2 weeks ago, or last week rather. It was it might have been 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. The next 5 is going to come out in November. And then the final 5 will come out in February. And then there's a movie coming out in November next year, 2025, of Karate Kid part 4, I guess. I don't know. A Karate Kid movie. Cobra Kai I love. Again, like Beverly Hills Cop, a show that leans into the nostalgia, but at the same time, enough forward progress with this. So obviously a great show. It's a very the show is very campy in moments. But it's a nice, easy, digestible show. It's only 30-ish minutes long. Some episodes get a little into the 40 minutes extra, what do we call it. Not too terrible. But it's a great show. Definitely lean into that one as well, too. As for documentaries, I actually watched a documentary on Celine Dion called I Am Celine Dion on Amazon. That was a very, very Very sad and transparent. So Celine Dion has a obviously a famous singer, one of the all-time greats, one of the greatest vocalists. By the way, Rolling Stone magazine, I said it, we did a podcast back in last summer. Rolling Stone revealed the top 200 vocalists, and Celine Dion was not on that list whatsoever. It was complete horseshit. Phenomenal artist though, but she suffers from stiffness syndrome, where her entire body just like stiffens up. I think her face too, also especially. And on the documentary, you can see where she has, I think, 2 attacks actually on that, what happens to her, and it's very depressing, very sad to watch. See her as vulnerable she was, and yeah, she was okay with filming it. It took a lot of balls for her to do that, honestly. But it was a very good documentary on her life, since COVID and whatnot. That woman's gone through a lot in the last 7 years. Losing her husband, Renee, she was very close with, despite the age difference, massive age difference. But her husband was also her manager. Basically helped her career. Just watching it, very strong woman, very strong woman. And she also lost her brother thing also too, and she passed away I think a month after her husband passed away. Very transparent documentary about the state of where she's in now. She hasn't performed in a long time. Actually, I say that she performed in the open ceremonies of the Olympics actually this past weekend and did a phenomenal job. It's the first performance she's done publicly since coming out with this diagnosis of stiffness syndrome. This is very rare, by the way. Definitely worth a watch. Even if you're not a fan of Celine Dion, you watch this, you definitely feel for her a little bit on that one. So they have that one. Then 2 more shows here I've been watching. Shows I started watching and I never finished. Since in the political season now, especially VEEP on HBO Max. I started VEEP a few times actually, but never got past season 1. And actually now that it's funny, people saying now that Kamala Harris in the race now, she's currently the current VEEP right now and she's running for president. This show is even more like I think like culturally like relevant now, especially the show ended in 2019, started in 2012. Obviously Julianne Dreyfus is of course the main character. She plays the vice president, Selena Meyer. I wasn't gonna say started in 2012, like I said. It's a comedy actually, so it's a little bit of a a twist to it though. Very funny show. I've already peeled through it. I'm already on season 2 right now. I'm gonna try to watch the entire season 2 today. It's actually a very easy watch, especially too because it's only 10 episodes per season, 30-minute episodes each. So I can get if I can find a way to have like 3 or 4 hours myself to watch TV, which is way hard to do anyway. I can get a season in a day, probably close to it. So definitely worth a watch. A lot of people say this is one of the most underrated, one of the biggest, but most underrated shows in HBO history. I'm a season and a half into it right now currently, and I see why it got so much love as it did back then. So VEEP is what I'm watching now too, especially currently. And then finally, the West Wing, the legendary West Wing show, starring Martin Sheen as President Josiah Bartlet. Great cast. Rob Lowe's in the show too. What's her face? I keep forgetting her name. The lady that plays the. Let me look her up real quick. Let me take a look her up real quick. Give me one quick second. Let me see real quick. Hold on. Oh, Allison Janney. That's what it is. Allison Janney plays a speaker, not Speaker of the House, press secretary. On there. Great cast. Great show. This is gonna be a little bit of a trek for us. So I started the show with my wife actually during COVID, about 3 years ago, and we actually got 3 seasons in, and then I don't know what happened. I think I just stopped watching it. Not because I got bored, but with me with everything, you know how it is with me, ADHD. Either I got something happened with football, basketball, and we just lost track, and then 1 month turned 2 months, and turned to a year, and then 2 years. And to me, if I start a show and I haven't watched a show more than a year or two, I got started over. So we decided, you know what, we're gonna stick with this. It's election season anyway, too. Let's just go with it, run through it. The thing is this show's a long show. It's 7 seasons, but each episode is 40-something minutes long, and it's 22, 23 episodes per season. So it's a trek. And, you know, this is a show that my wife and I watching together. So therefore, her and I are, you know, I got to be awake for number one. And there's 2 nights a week where I can't watch with her because she's at work. So this might be a while. I may not be done with this. This might take, honestly, I hate to say this might take me through till like probably the winter to finish the show, honestly. Especially when football come back too, especially in the next couple weeks. So, but West Wing, I mean, legendary show. One of the, you know, people say this show is one of the greatest shows of all time. And that's I got 3 seasons in, and I loved it, but I just never finished it. So it's funny. Like my wife and I, we have like our own like checklist of shows. Like I have a list of shows that I watched that's on my shows that she won't watch, and I have a list of shows that we both are going to watch. And we started like this, like checking off the shows we want to watch together. So like Cobra Kai, for example, is a show that we both watch. Her and I watch. West Wing is one we're watching together. VEEP is one I'm watching on my own. So that's what I'm watching as of late. Of course, my daily YouTube consumption of media shows and sports and politics and culture. I watch all the time. You guys know the drill with that one. A lot of content to watch, but it's something a little challenging now because this football comes back in September, college football back in September as well too, and then you have NBA come back soon after that, and then the content on the podcast wraps up now. My Tuesday nights are gonna be pretty much, you know, unavailable to do anything now because I have, you know, commitments to doing the Huddle Up podcast, especially too with my guys Jim, Kyle, and Matt during the season, live shows during the season that's coming up very soon. So we have that. So things start to shrink with time a little bit, but it's okay. It's all good. It's all fun, right? So anyway, wow, we almost went an hour today. I didn't think it would go that long. I did not think it would go that long today, but you know, a lot to say, a lot to talk about, and that would do it for today's podcast, dated July 30th, 2024. Guys, please, I'm on Twitter /X at EJ Christian 7. And please, I'm going to ask you guys, please, and I'm going to beg, I guess, then. Please share this show. Share my YouTube page, please, at youtube.com/Earnest Christian. Share with your friends. Share, subscribe, like, rate, review, the whole 9. We have a lot of content on the YouTube page. All the shows are on video. Not this podcast, but other podcasts that have been done for a little while, but I'm going to hopefully get back to it the next couple weeks, especially the Wrestling Retro podcast. Check it out. Share with your friends who may like the stuff too as well. We're trying to grow this thing, trying to grow community here. And please do it for me. Love you guys. And until next one. Later.